Welcome! Are you eager to start analyzing data? Remember that creating a credit risk model implies calculating the expected loss. The expected loss is the product of three components: the probability of default, or PD, the loss given default, or LGD, and the exposure at default, or EAD. We will go step by step through the process, starting with the probability of default model. First, we must establish our dependent variable, or in other words, what we are going to predict. We are interested in the borrowers and the respective loans, on which they have defaulted or not. For simplicity, loans that have defaulted will be called bad, while those which performed well, good. Therefore, to be able to distinguish between good and bad loans, the good and bad clients respectively will need to define what a default is. More specifically, we need a default definition, also known as a good-bad definition. This definition comprises rules stating when a borrower is considered to have defaulted on a loan. Typically, default definitions are based on the delinquency of the borrower, measured in days past the payment due date. A common definition is that the borrower has defaulted if they are more than 90 days past due on a loan. This is not the only rule which can be used, though. For example, a borrower may be considered to have defaulted if they have committed fraud. Applied to a loan, the default definition results in the loan being classified as a non-defaulted or good, or defaulted or bad. Usually, we create a new variable in the dataset of a Boolean or binary type. 0 will stand for a default or bad loan, while 1 for a good loan. The established statistical methodology to model probability of default is a logistic regression where the dependent variable is precisely whether a customer defaulted or not. Logistic regression estimates the relationship between two things: the logarithm of odds of an outcome of interest, or dependent variable, and a linear combination of predictors, or independent variables. In our case, the outcome of interest is the non-default or default event. So on the left-hand side, we have the logarithm of the ratio of the non-defaults to defaults, or the odds ratio. When it comes to PD models, interpretability is extremely important, as it is required by the regulators. The model must be very easy to understand and apply. Even people who have never heard of statistical analysis should be able to work with it. This is why the established practice is for all independent variables in the probability of default models to be dummy variables, that is, binary categorical variables, or indicator variables. In other words, we'll have to include dummy variables as independent variables in our PD model. That shouldn't be too hard, right? We've already created many dummy variables for our discrete variables. But wait. While we have many discrete variables such as external ratings, purpose of the loan, home ownership, and so on, we also have many continuous variables. What are we supposed to do with them? We can't just disregard them, because, supposedly, they would bring a lot of information and help us a great deal to predict the loan defaults, while the convention is to turn them into dummy variables as well. After we do that, the PD model will be a logistic regression model with a binary indicator for good or bad, or non-default and default as dependent variable, and only dummy variables as independent variables. From the next lecture, we will be hands-on in creating the PD model. Thanks for watching.